I want to thank everyone for attending this, I want to call it a naming ceremony, if you will. It's not a memoriam type stuff. This is more for us to celebrate a great person and a wonderful contributor to our community. The program's going to be fairly quick this morning. What I plan to do is I'll open this ceremony and we'll talk about just a few things, highlight the sports complex and its meaning to the citizens. There are a few folks that have asked to be able to speak after me, and we'll do that, and I will call them up. The sports complex, as many of you know and many of you may not know, was not an easy deal. It was not an easy deal.
1, 2, 3.
Fortunately, it opened in May of 2009, just very short, 6 years ago. But getting there was worse than pulling teeth. I think a root canal or something like that would have been closer. The citizens got together, and through our Parks and Rec Committee, they did studies. We had several studies done to understand what we need, what our needs were in terms of sports participation. And one of the things that came out very clear is that we need more and more fields. Well, considering that York County currently at that time had about 75, 78 fields somewhere in the neighborhood, that we worked in unison with our school board throughout the county, it was kind of a little bit of a hard sell to understand why we needed at that time, the requirement was for 17 additional fields. Well, so where do you put 17 fields? How do you fund 17 fields? We didn't have the land, so the study kind of languished for a lot of years, but it was always there. We were hearing, the supervisors were hearing from the public. Yes, Tom, we need more fields. Sheila would hear it. All the supervisors, Don, George, Walt, we would hear this. We need more fields. We've got to be able to do better. One of the problems that was really interesting was that if you think of 17 and the jam up that we see today that we're trying to solve for millions of dollars, one of the problems was that, when kids get out of school and when people go home and when mom and dads take their children to these athletic events, all seems to occur at the same time. So what we had was a jam up, and the worst place that you could have a jam up was 17 at Harwood Mill. And so the idea of, well, how can we solve these problems? And Mac was given the task of trying to make this happen. How can we do this without, one, spending a ton of money on the acreage that was needed? And I think, I'm going to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to maybe 100 acres was for this park. So where do you get that kind of land in York County, which has one of the highest land values in all of Hampton Roads? So that was a pretty tough task. Well, we knew that Waterworks was here, and for years and years, this beautiful piece of property had sat relatively idle. And so Mac and the staff got together, and they did some coordination, and at that time, we had to go do a few visits. I think Joe Frank was mayor of Newport News, and so it came about that the city of Newport News was willing to rent us the land, or lease us the land, depending on your point of view. And so we had the land. Now the question is, that's just one part of the bill. Where are you going to come up with the $18 million for the rest of it? $18 million. And an environment where we had gone through several years of very increased growth and prosperity in this county for housing, and the board was having to struggle with balancing out the tax rates and the needs, and people were kind of getting tired of constantly getting these big tax bills, and it became an issue. I'm just painting a picture of the struggle. I want to tell you, what I have just described was the small bloodletting compared to what we really had to go through. It was so ugly. The groups were formed, the anti-sports complex deal. We were condemned for the waste of money, and it goes on and on. But we knew through what Mac was telling us and what we were seeing and the possibilities of how to make this happen, we knew what the citizens were really asking for. We knew what the demand was in our community. That's what supervisors do when they're hooked into their community and they understand. So you don't listen to the chatter, you listen to the facts and understand what's needed to be done. Well, Mac was working all this. He would hear the angst of the supervisors, and he was almost like Father Mac. You know, we'd come in there, Mac, oh goodness, you know, we're going to get killed over this. We got to be careful. And Mac would calm us down a little bit, and he would say, okay, look, this is going to be great. You know, hang in there. This is going to be good. So, as it turns out, they came up with a plan. Unfortunately, we could not get the 17 fields. The best we could do were the 13 fields. And we looked at light. We said, the lighting, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it upright. Let's make it so this thing can be played on all the time. And oh, by the way, during this time, York football field up there had gone through the part where through the schools, we'd use funding to put in the artificial turf. Because if you were the 88th game up there at York Field, what you were is in a mud bowl before that. So when we put the turf in, oh man, everybody was loving it. So again, we were kind of getting the feedback. So as it turned out, this was a vision of not just the board of supervisors, not just the citizens of the county, but it was a vision of Mac and the staff of what needed to be done. When they started the construction here, the trees came down. So then you had all the folks that didn't want the destruction of the environment. We're going, okay, what are you doing? You're going to poison the water. You're going to kill the birds. You're going to do this and that. Well, there's plenty of that. We have to live in our environment. We have to be able to use it in a smart way. And we came up with some deals where we had to create BMPs, the ponds, the retention ponds, which never existed, but needed to be done so that we didn't have pollution of filtration into the Chesapeake Bay that was already taking place. So a lot of things were coming about. The grand opening for the sports complex occurred on May the 2nd, 2009. And as I described already, it had 13 lighted fields, including 2 instructional soccer fields, 4 registration soccer field, regular soccer fields, 5 youth baseball, softball fields, 1 adult softball field, and 1 adult baseball field. In addition, it has a lot of amenities. We worked with the county to try to determine how we could sell hot dogs and whatnot, and make a profit, not cost us too much, and actually turned it over to a vendor. And we got inputs from the community over what needed to be done. We have concessions, we have the restrooms, we have playgrounds, we have 31 picnic shelters, and over 2 miles of multi-purpose paths that people can come and walk and run. And thanks to some of the efforts, and I like to point out Ms. Sheila Knowles on this, we have a community garden here, which is pretty popular. So this is being used. How used is it? Well, there's been, since 2009, 125 tournaments here at the complex. 21,000 activities. Now, it goes on, it says each year there's 1,200 Little League participants and 1,800 York County youth soccer participants at the complex. But I remember at the time, the build out for this and use of this was about 6,500 events. 6,500 events that would lead to approximately over 600 to 650,000 visits of people coming to this complex. It wasn't shortly after we opened it, about 3 years after we opened it, we saw that we were going to bump up against this pretty quick. And those 3 extra fields probably would have been, or the 4 extra fields would have been real nice. And today, I know that we're bumping up close to that 600,000 a year visit. That's pretty amazing. Additional sports activities held at the complex: York County Adult Softball League, youth baseball tournaments, youth softball tournaments, youth soccer tournaments, lacrosse games, kickball leagues, ultimate frisbee leagues, sports camps, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, York County Middle School baseball and softball games, and kids and adult yoga. There's a lot of activity goes on here, and a lot of people don't know that. But I will tell you, one of the benefits of this, when people come to buy homes in here, the realtors bring them through the complex to show what's here, because this became a real shining example of what York County can do. It is clear to everyone that Mac's dream of a sports complex where people can join together in teams to compete and share the love of sports has been realized. I can think of few more appropriate tributes than renaming this complex after Mac. And just keep in mind, you said, well, Mac was here and he did this thing. Let's keep in mind that Mac served as he served in the county for over 30 years, okay? And he served as the county administrator, I think it was about 13 years, if I got my numbers correctly. Well, not quite, yeah, about 13 years, right at 13 years. He was really incredibly proud of this facility. And I'm certain that for years to come, people will be telling their teammates and family members, and I love this, to be sure to make it to the game tonight because we're playing at the MAC, the McReynolds Athletic Complex. Whoever came up with that, great. That was awesome. Thank you. Without people knowing it, MAC has been a part of their lives and the lives of anyone who visits this complex. We here will always remember Mac, and his legacy lives on with his family and the impact he had on all our lives. Sadly, and this is very sadly with time, many people will play here at the Mac and will not know Mac. A time it goes on. But the fact is, his name is here, which is a reflection of his family, his parents, and of the love for this county. Therefore, we are placing an informational sign on one of the buildings here at the complex to let everyone know why we call it the McReynolds Athletic Complex, and just who Mac really is. Mac loved this county. He loved the people in it. He was very proud of his legacy that he knew that he would leave here for us to follow, for other generations to follow. Of course, he had no clue we'd name this after him, but he meant a tremendous amount to us as a friend, as a dedicated employee, as a person that lived and loved York County. One final comment. In May of 2002, one of the honors that we get at being on the Board of Supervisors is that we get our name put on the building, okay? So in some small way that we will be remembered. And just to review, in those days, and that day of celebration, which I'll never forget because I saw the kids across the soccer fields all lined up, and they were all compressed. And when they marched around for the celebration, which was all the way at this end, the line ran from all the way at the back end all the way down to the front, and it was huge. It must have been at least 3,000 people, if not more, here that day. And it was a beautiful day. Everybody was in celebration. What a great challenge. Walt Zaremba was chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Don Wiggins was vice chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Sheila Knoll, George Rishak, and I were on the board at the time. And we are all very proud. We know that during the development of this idea of what needed to be done, there were a lot of other folks. Jim Burgett had participated in this. There were Ken Bowman had participated in it. There were a lot of people that had to put a little skin in the game. The county has financed this complex. We'll be paying for it for a while. We have a great relationship with the city of Newport News, and so this complex is going to succeed. It is a jewel within our county. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mac Complex. Now we have a few folks that would like to come up and say a few words. And first I would like to recognize, I believe Melissa, are you going to come up first, if you would?
I'll try. try and keep it together. No. Also, I have to say, the MAC, when I read the press release for that, I just giggled because it's Dad, it is MAC, and you can go to the MAC now. Anyway, it's amazing synonym. This is such a lovely tribute to a community and regional leader who is also my dad. I'm a little biased. I think he was wonderful. He was so dedicated to creating a strong and really a thriving community where families and businesses alike wanted to live and grow. He worked for the county longer than I have been alive, starting in 1983, and I grew up with York County, and I think a lot of people can say they grew up with my dad. I remember so many 4th of Julys, so many Memorial Day ceremonies, so many evenings spent at the Symphony on the waterfront. I was also on the Youth Commission and got to see firsthand experiencing working for the county in that way. And you could see how proud Dad was of the people who worked for the county and everything that the county was. He, of course, did have tales of problems that needed solving, long board meetings, lots of conferences, and budgets. He never stopped talking about budgets. No, just kidding. But he was such a logical and realistic thinker, and I know that many people did go to him with problems, and they sought advice from him. And I know over the past year, I have definitely been, if only Dad were here, I could ask him this thing, he would have the logical answer. And I imagine that's something that people here have also, experienced. But I think that he led by example, and he definitely, I think that he was able to help all of you all be leaders and continue on what he started and what he wanted. Not that he started the county, but anyway, I think that in the daily runnings of the county, I imagine that he's remembered very constantly. And the county and the board and the employees were really an extended family in a way to us that he was proud of. And whenever I'd hear someone say to him, things sound like they're running great in the county, he'd be like, well, it's all of my great employees too. And I used to sort of roll my eyes at it as a teenager, but then I realized, no, he is 100% honest here. Like, he was so proud of everybody who worked for him. And he knew that he couldn't do it without an amazing staff. So the renaming of the athletic complex is really such an amazing tribute to Dad, and he would have appreciated it as everything that he stood for, as a leader, as a family man, as somebody who loved to spend time outside, somebody who had fun. Like, Dad liked fun, right? So anyway, it's a community space for families and kids and the community to come together and feel good about in a way that he would so appreciate. So thank you for recognizing Dad's leadership for the past 30 years, and I hope that everyone is doing well, and the county will continue to see great days. So thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming today. I don't know how well each and every one of you knew my father, but I had the pleasure of knowing him for over 30 years. And one thing I can tell you without hesitation is he loved being the York County Administrator. He absolutely loved it. And when I was younger, I couldn't understand how someone could work as long and as hard as he could and still be excited to go to work the next morning. But he was. And through my working experience over the years, I've come to see that if you have great colleagues and community, it really does make sense. And I think a couple of the things that gave him great satisfaction was all of the interaction that he got to have with the members of York County. I know he loved just talking to everybody throughout the day, just in daily interactions. And he also got to work with incredible individuals throughout the years, putting together policies and public works. Dad was especially proud of this sports complex, Riverwalk, and getting the worship over from Paris. And when you think about it, York County, it has an incredible history. It goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War and beyond. But I don't think it was, just because of the historic ties that Lafayette's worship came over here first. I think it's because this is one of the best counties in the nation. And Dad was always proud of that fact. He brought it up often. And he really should have, because this place has a great future. And just on behalf of myself and my family, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors and all of you for making my dad a part of this history. Words don't really do it justice, but thank you.
I believe one of the supervisors, Don Wiggins, you wanted to say a few words?
Mac was one of my best friends. I got to know him. I knew him a little bit up from several years before I was on the Board of Supervisors. And at the time, he was our finance director. And there wasn't a better one around than Mac. He had more degrees than you could shake a stick at from William and Mary in finance. Every year when we go to Homestead to learn how to be better supervisors and better county administrators, Mac always went to teach finance to the other finance directors that showed up. He was a wonderful man. And but what I remember him most of all was not necessarily the sports complex, but it was all the things that he did for me in my district. If I had a problem, I went to Mac. And I said, Mac, what can we do to get through with this thing? And he would tell me, and before long we would have it. In fact, when we went to get the sports complex, I knew Frank, the mayor of Newport News, and he said, Don, let's go talk to him. So we did. We went to talk to Frank and some of the other members of Newport News that had anything to do with the property that they owned, and we worked out a deal with them where we could get this property from Newport News, and it worked out well. But one of the main things I remember about Mac is how he helped me with a problem we really had in my district. Seaford Elementary School and Seaford Baptist Church there's only two houses that separate the two. And I was going, and then when they have the football, the mini football, the Little League football, when they have that in the fall of the year, they didn't have enough parking at the school, so people would park out on the road. Well, Seaford Road is narrow. And I was always afraid that one of the children were going to jump out there and get hit by a car. And now we've got a 4-foot concrete sidewalk that runs from Seaford Elementary School to the parking lot of Seaford Baptist. We've got street lights there for the nights, and didn't cost the school or the church anything. So those are the things, and there's many more of these that I could recount to you that Mac helped me with. And it's things that the people in District 3, my district, don't realize went on. And but Mac was from getting sewer run to certain areas that were overflowing with wastewater. One thing after the other, Mac was there for me. And I got to know him. I've been on the board for 12 years, and then another 4 years during the meantime when I lost the election one year. And Mac, I've been close to Mac ever since. So this is something that we can do for Mac and for his family that can last, hopefully, forever, as long as we're alive. And I'm just so glad to be a part of it, and thank all of you for coming. Thank you.
Okay, this ends the ceremony. Come out when you can and enjoy the complex. Thank you for coming.